Sem mais delongas, Kenneth Christensen.
All these bands, all these people, all these friends that I was an equal, but what you gonna win? Everybody's gone on without to the end, to the end. I'm journeying to the end, to the end, to the end. I'm journeying to the end, to the end, to the end. I'm journeying to the end, to the end, to the end. I'm journeying to the end.
Olá, bom dia. I hope you're all ready to learn about Project Fugu. And we got my slides up, so that's all correct. My name is Kenneth. I am Danish, and I'm very proud to be here in Brazil again. So, I work for a small company called Intel. We do chips and the like. You might have heard of us. And I am actually not a CPU designer. I actually work on Chrome. And mostly I'm working also on standards, for instance, the W3C, where I'm also an elected member to the technical architecture group. So, yeah, I guess like the rest of you, you like JavaScript. I definitely love JavaScript and I love the web. Because like the web is awesome. Like we have great reach, like low friction. Like you just go to a website and it's just there. You don't need to wait 2 hours to download a site or something like that. It's safe. You don't really worry. You just go to click on a link, and normally that's pretty safe, right? Unless you download weird and native apps. Don't do that. It's also indexable, so we have like search engines. It's ephemeral. This means, this is a very complex word you've probably never heard. It means that if you don't visit a site for a long time, all the resources will disappear. Unlike that native app you install to pay for parking, that is still there after 5 years and is still getting updated and using your data every week. So everything on the web starts with the URL. And if you've been at any web conference for the last couple of years, you've probably heard about this thing called PWAs, Progressive Web Apps, PWAs. So these apps are pretty exciting. This allows you to take a web app and basically install it so it acts and looks like a native app. These apps can work offline. They can be performant and responsive. So the web is a pretty nice platform, a nice place to be. You have this great reach. It works across all kinds of different architectures and OSs. It has a thriving open source ecosystem around it using NPM and the like, frameworks, a lot of APIs. It's very flexible. You can create like news sites, blogging sites, books, games, and actually apps. And you can make those fast. So now with Progressive Web Apps, you maybe have noticed that even on desktop now, so this is Chrome OS, you can start installing these Progressive Web Apps as desktop Progressive Web Apps. So here I'm just showing how that works, for instance, with Pinterest. So yeah, with the web we have all these amazing new APIs, but sometimes you need a little bit more power than that. You want to be like He-Man. And for this, we have WebAssembly. So WebAssembly is this portable, low-time, efficient format that's suitable for compilation to the web. It allows you to take this like old code that you have maybe in C++, maybe written 20 years ago, and bring that to the web. It also allows you to optimize bottlenecks in a native language that is just better suited for that. Basically, it allows you to complement JavaScript. So here I'm having an example of a company called Autodesk. They have this application called AutoCAD that you use, for instance, for drawing buildings and roads. Their code base is around 35 years old. And it's all written, I believe, in C and C++. So they managed to take most of this code and just bring it to the web using WebAssembly. So that now people can load more than 90% of all Autodesk files or AutoCAD files out there. And they just build like all the UI components using web, and then kind of have like a canvas where they're using WebAssembly to show all these drawings. So WebAssembly really solves a lot of the real problems we have on the web today, but we're still lacking a lot of capabilities. So for instance, if I'm using AutoCAD and have all these very important files, I might not want to have them in the cloud. I might want to work them on my local machine. So why don't we have access to local files? And how do we bridge this gap to native apps? So this is where the Project Fugu comes in. So Project Fugu was initiated by Google, and they're collaborating with us at Intel as well as with Microsoft. So Fugu is Japanese for the pufferfish. This very cute, very poisonous fish. There are actually people in Japan that eat this fish. It's kind of dangerous, and you need to study many years to know how to cut it without actually killing your customers. So it's delicious, apparently. Actually tried it. It was quite okay. If prepared correctly, but if not, it's deadly. Just like all these native APIs that we want to expose to the web. So we want to enable web apps to do all the things that native app can do, but we want to do that in a way that is still safe to serve the web, and you shouldn't be scared of entering a new URL. If you go to this URL, bit.ly powerful APIs, you can read a bit of intro from Google about this project. You can also go to the bug tracker, the Chromium bug tracker, and see what we're currently working on. So you might be wondering, you've probably seen that all these new standards on the web take a long time to get into browsers. Sometimes, I think at some point, the median was like 6 years. That's a long time to wait for all these APIs. How can we keep up with native? Well, this is our process we're using for the Project Fugu. We try to identify the need and come up with a lot of use cases. We do that by talking to developers and companies. Then we write an explainer. As I'm part of the tag, we actually have a document called the Explainer. It explains you how to write an explainer. So you can check that out. Then we write the explainer. We ask the companies and the community to have a look at it, give feedback, file issues, maybe invent like new use cases. Like, it would be cool if we could do this as well. Then we move on to actually make it a formal spec, like going through all the issues, make sure that it's really safe, get all the security reviews, all that is needed. Then we can enter something called an origin trial. This allows developers to try this new feature before it's actually shipping. Shipping here means that it's a part of the release Chrome product. So every user can use it on their website. With an origin trial, you can ask for a token that you can put on your origin, your website, and then you can access this API before it's widely available. There's some few caveats, like it might change every release, so you need to acquire a new token. After that, eventually we'll end up shipping it. So you might be wondering, what are all those cool APIs that we're working on? Before Project Fugu, there was another Google project called Project Viz, where they looked at a few APIs and tried to put them to the web. Some of these was like, how do you connect to hardware? Like, you buy a toy and, I need to install another API for that. Maybe I don't play with it every day, or maybe I just want to connect to a machine at work just like once. So we worked on exposing Bluetooth and USB to the web, and this is actually shipping in Chrome today. So for instance, here's an example of a Lego Batmobile that is actually being controlled from a web page, or like here installed as a progressive web app. I don't have the time to explain all the details about these exciting APIs, but I have another talk here. I'm going to, if people follow me on Twitter, please do, I'm going to share these slides afterward. And you can go and check out this talk I did about a year ago that explains all the details about Web USB and Web Bluetooth. So this is shipping today. Sometimes, especially with USB and Bluetooth, there might be protocols running on top of it. For instance, if you plug in a keyboard in the computer that acts like an HID device, like a human interface definition device, so you don't normally have access to it just using USB because the system kind of claims it. HID devices may work over Bluetooth and USB. You also have serial. Like, we don't have serial ports on the computers any longer, so we run serial as part of USB. So in order to work with this without you having to go and modify the hardware itself or change the firmware, we're also exposing something like the serial API. So we're having the serial API. Here's a short, very small example just to show you how I connect to a serial device. You see I'm requesting a port, and basically then I can start reading, just to show that it's kind of really simple. This is, we're trying to formalize the spec at this point, so you can imagine you'll see this very soon in Chrome-based browsers. The same thing with Web HID. This is very useful. I think one of the most asked use cases we have is for barcode scanners. People buy these barcode scanners on, for instance, Amazon, and they're all USB based. And you want to create your apps where you can go and scan your inventory, etc. So we're going to enable you to do that with your web apps. Just like the other, this is we're at the late stage of formalizing these specs. But sometimes when you create these cool web apps, you want to share content. Like, imagine you go to Say you have this web app that shows pictures, pictures of cats, and you really want to send that picture of that cat to your mom. It would be really nice to be able to click share, and automatically it will share it into your Instagram feed, which might be another web app or maybe another native app, instead of having to copy and download and do everything manually. So we can do this actually today, even on iOS, using the WebShare API. Currently it's very simple. It doesn't actually support images at this point, I believe. But you can share things like title, text, and URL. And sharing of images and files is coming. So receiving share is the other end of the bargain. You want to create this web app, like say Twitter, they have a progressive web app, and you want to go into maybe Google Photos and actually tweet that photo directly into the Twitter app. And this also works today by extending the web app manifest. So if you create a progressive web app, you need to write a web app manifest to make it installable. So this is an extension to that format. And it basically piggybacks on the form submission that you already know from browsers. So very soon you'll be able to share files and images as well, directly into your own app. So this is shipping today, the first version of it. The version with the file support is coming soon. A lot of web apps also use media, but when you're using that app, you might not want to look at the screen all the time just because you're playing like a song. So the media session APIs allows you to control these things. Show like artwork and maybe even like interact with the special hardware keys you have on your laptop. It is a very simple API. Here I'm just showing like how you can handle like some of these different, like when people are clicking, for instance, on the next track, like how you handle that in your web app. Very, very simple, also really cool. So this is also shipping already. We already talked about the scanning thing, so it would be nice with my phone that I could actually go and scan like QR codes and barcodes. And a lot of phones and hardware actually have like hardware support for this. So you don't have to do it with JavaScript, you don't have to download this big bundle and use a lot of CPU cycles for doing this. So for this, we have the shape detection API. It's actually split in 3 different APIs. So there's actually a face detector, there's a text detector, and a barcode detector. And we're intending on shipping the barcode detector first because it's the most requested one, and kind of like the simplest one as well. So this is also in the late stages. Sometimes you have this app that also want to kind of like tell people that like something happened in it. You want to re-engage with your users, like, hey, your mom shared a new photo on your tweets. So you don't want to have to go and automatically open that up. You might also don't want to like send all these push notifications because people get annoyed and they start blocking it. So batching allows you to just show a small batch on the icon, like something happened. On some platforms, you might be able to show a number. On others, it will just show it as a dot. So very, very simple API, as you can see. Some platforms might ignore the number and just show a dot. If you don't want to show a number, you can also just not do that. So this is also in the late stages and is currently under an origin trial in Chrome. When we talk to people, a lot of people say, like, we ask them, why do you do like native apps? And in some countries, especially third world countries, they say, well, people, we need access to the contacts because we're like, people want to like share things with their contacts, so we're trying to import their contacts so they can find their friends. But this is really scary. Like, I don't want every app or website that I don't know and trust really well to access all my contacts, my friends, and maybe spam them or robocall them. No. So we came up with an API we're working on called Contact Picker, where you are in control. Basically, you can say whether you want one contact or you want like multiply, whether you want the email, the phone number, like the user is definitely in control on what is being shared. And the website will only see what you have shared. So for instance, here I'm saying that I just want one single user, multiply false, and I want name, email, and telephone number if those are available. And then I just select. It will show this dialog. People can select, or maybe they can even cancel it. So here I selected myself, and I didn't have any telephone numbers, so no one is going to call me. But at least what you get back is basically like an array of JSON objects. So really easy and to use. So this is still in the phases where we're asking for feedback. So if anyone is interested, please join the conversation. If you work for a company, you probably know that fonts are really important. It's kind of your branding. So maybe like I work for Intel, we have our own fonts. like because it's the Intel font, right? You've seen that with Google and other companies as well, and you don't want to put all of those on the web or have them supported in every browser, but you might want to use them. Think if you're using a web app like Figma for doing a UI design, like you want to use those fonts that you have on your local machine. So Font Access API allows you to actually access all those local fonts. This has been requested by a lot of people. Very simple. This is really in the early stages, so if you're one of those designers or if you need this feature, please join the conversation and make sure that we design this in a way that it serves you. This is the API that I'm most excited about. Reading and writing files on the local file system. So you can already do this today with the, like, maybe you go like to Google Photos, you can maybe upload one picture or maybe like a whole like directory with using like this WebKit directory. But it would be really nice that maybe I don't have to do this every time. And getting a modern API that makes it easy to read and write files. So the native file system is exactly that. Like you have these new APIs that makes it really easy to interact with files. And the idea is that some of these files will get a handle. So this handle can be serializable. It might not always be. So for instance, if I go to a random website and say, hey, please upload an image because like maybe for this conference they want a picture of you. So you go there. Next time you reload, cannot access any more file. That was like one time only, just for that session. But if you go and install that app like as a progressive web app, well, then maybe this is the current idea, that website will be able to serialize these files or directories, for instance, in an IndexedDB or similar means. So next time you load the app, for instance, AutoCAD, you will be able to access the exact same files without having being asked over and over and over. So this is also like we're a bit further along with this, and we're trying to land like small pieces, like feature by feature, to make sure that we do it all correctly. So please join, and if you have any comments or feedback on those APIs. So here at the end, I want to look at what we've been working on at Intel as I work for Intel. So the first thing we landed was generic sensors. So we looked on the sensors that we have on the web as geolocation, there's device motion, device orientation, and we looked at there was so many people had so many issues with these APIs. Like they couldn't do like manual sensor fusion of data. They always had like this maybe 60 frames per second. Sometimes you don't need that, so I don't want to run out of use all the juice of my cell phone just for if I just need maybe one event per minute. That makes absolutely no sense. So we went through all these issues and implemented a whole new API called Generic Sensors, and shipped in Chrome accelerometer, gyroscope, linear acceleration center, absolute orientation center, and relative orientation sensors. Some of these, for instance, if you're using the web VR polyfill, are actually using some of these sensors really efficiently. We also have a few others that we're working on currently. So this is more or less like how they all relate together. If you're attacking like creating a web app that should run, for instance, on iOS, which doesn't support this, I wrote a polyfill that is based on top of the existing APIs and try to work out all those kind of kinks and quirks that exist on the platform. So I'm just showing a small demo here. I thought it's really nice because I wrote this like demo app, which might be playing or not. Yeah, this is yeah, there we go. And this actually worked on my phone, but I thought, hey, we have this web Bluetooth API, and I kind of like dealing with hardware. So I took this hardware, a small Arduino board, it's called Arduino 101, installed a JavaScript runtime called JerryScript by Samsung, and I coded a web app or like a JavaScript app. And then I used WebUSB to implement the same API, and it just worked. I was like, wow, this was super cool, what you can do on the web today. So currently we're working on shipping the ambient light sensor. We went through security review because like we don't want people to use this to abuse people or steal information, which meant that we had to like change the frequency, etc. But still it allows for very cool use cases. For instance, like if you're using a mapping application, you go into like a dark tunnel, it can automatically change the color. And as I'm also showing, it's actually already working in the upcoming Chrome version of Edge. So Sensors, I think it's really amazing. It's very nice. I can talk about this for hours. But I have another presentation you might want to check out if you want to learn everything about sensors, sensor fusion, how does an accelerometer and magnetometer work. So one of the things that I've been working on for a while is near-field communication, also known as NFC. So NFC are these tags or cards that you might be able to scan with your phone. And when your phone becomes close to one of these, for instance, if it's a passive device like a sticker, it will actually generate an electric field that will power up that device at that point. And at that point, you can read the content and you can write content as well. So this could be really nice, for instance, at a conference where you, what's your name? I want to get your contact. You just scan it with your phone, maybe with a web app. That should be the idea. Or you do a treasure hunt. You walk around. You get money. You get points, for instance, and it modifies what's on the chip. So this currently allows you to read and write what is called NDEF. That is the NFC data exchange format. And has really complete support for that. And even like the inventor of the web, so Tim Berners-Lee, he was really excited when I showed this to him. So I loved having this picture with him. So I made a small demo just to show you how this feature works. And let me see if I can explain it to you. So this is a small web app, launches fast, as all web apps should. So this is kind of like a grocery list, like what you need to buy today. So you see I can add and remove items, and even swipe them away if I never need them again. So here I'm just adding olive oil, yay. And you see it gets added to my shopping list. But the cool thing here is that I can also click this thing called Write to NFC tag. So now I can see like, hey, I really want to buy some new NFC stickers or tags. And now it will ask me to actually touch one of these tags that I have on my table below. And it will actually write that to that tag. So in the future, if I touch that tag, it will actually just add it to my shopping list. So think about this in the bathroom, where you're running out of toilet paper, you just take up your phone, touch the tag, and it's on your shopping list. So you don't forget to buy that. Or like in the kitchen, or whatever you need. So this is just a very simple example of what this enables. And I hope it makes you a bit excited to try and play out with these APIs. So the API, just to show you an idea how it works, is that you create an NFC reader. And then you attach this reading event. You can also do attach event listener reading. And you'll get all these records. And then you basically say, hey, start scanning. Here I'm showing another more collaborate example where I'm actually looking at the record type. We support JSON out of the box because JavaScript developers love JSON. The example is using a JSON record and an opaque record like a data record, where it basically just reads an image and will add that to the page. So this is a very small example showing what is actually possible. When you write, you can also just write. The idea is here showing that you can use JSON, so I'm directly writing 2 records of JSON. If you're really advanced, because some of these tags don't have a lot of space, there will be ways where you can actually pack the data much more efficiently. But I think for most use cases, this definitely serves and is really easy to work with. So we're also working on the spec. I've been working on this lately, and all the use case document. And if you have any comments, if you want to use this feature, please come to me, because we're currently searching for people that want to try out this API. Another thing I'm working on is trying to keep your phone or computer alive. Think about this. I'm at this conference, and I'm spending 5 minutes on one slide, and this happens. My laptop starts sleeping, and I lose the HDMI, and I need to call the technical guy to come over and fix my computer. Not cool. So for this, we have the wake lock. It's like a lock that keeps something awake. So there's 2 different kinds of wake lock. The simple one is a screen wake lock. Don't turn off my screen. The other one is a system wake lock. It's a bit more interesting. Imagine you have your phone, for instance, Google Maps. You don't need to look at the screen all the time because I just wanted it in my pocket. But I still wanted to say, like, hey, turn right now. Or like, hey, there's new info. You're close to your destination. But if it turns off, like even the CPU, and then I lose my connection to the GPS, I don't want that either. But System Wake Lock, it's much more interesting because it allows you basically to somehow run some background tasks on the web. It's also why there's a lot of security implications that we're currently looking into. So the API is actually very, very simple, but the spec is not. So it basically allows you to request a wake lock and request permission if you even want a wake lock in a worker, which is even also possible. And then you're using the new abort controller to abort any of these wake locks. They might be aborted automatically by the system. For instance, if I just close my app, yeah, well, then you lose the wake lock. Or if I go to another site or something like that. So there's a lot of cases where this might happen. Here I'm just showing a very simple example. I'm creating an abort controller, getting the signal, then I'm requesting a screen wake lock. So now we'll make sure the screen won't sleep. But then after 10 minutes, 10 times 60 times 1,000 milliseconds, it will abort it, and then it's allowed to sleep again. So we are pretty much in the late stages and really close to launching this as part of an Origin trial. Something else we've been working on, I don't have a lot of time, is capturing media. So I think this is really cool, having access to actually create something like Instagram and applying filters and whatnot using the web. So this shows like all these different things you can deal with that we have been working on. So you can do something like this. Yeah. This is a demo that was written by two of my coworkers, Sasha and Riju. So they've had a lot of fun. Also for like commercial grade cameras, for instance, in a meeting room, you might want to be able to like pan and tilt and zoom, like maybe on the person who's talking. So this is also possible using these new APIs. At Intel, we also have cameras called RealSense. These actually come with actually a depth sensor. So as Riju is showing here, it figures out what is behind him, and it actually replaces it by something totally else, something very different than our boring Finland office. Yeah, very exciting. And here's even what you can do. You can even interact just using your fingers. So this is another coworker of mine who wrote this demo. There's another demo here as well, where he's using his fingers to actually pick up one of these cubes. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. See, woo! So all of this is coming soon, and we're trying to write some posts so you can learn all about it. So as on the web today, we already have all these existing exciting new APIs, and soon we're going to have a lot more. So if you want to learn about an Origin trial, use some of these APIs as they come available. Here's the link. If you have an idea on your own, something you really need, please file a new feature request. Here's kind of a list of what we're working on. This was from Google I/O, more or less like when things is being shipped. We're around, I think we're M77 right now. And this is an even more updated version, where you can see green is when something is an Origin trial. When you see the Fugu logo, this is when we're supposed to ship it. Some of these things might like get delayed by release or two, depending on if we're running into issues. So with that said, I hope you got excited about the web and where the web is heading. And thank you for listening. If you have any question, feel free to come to me. Eu também falo português, se quer conversar em português também, isso não tem problema. Mas eu tenho amigos que estão assistindo isso aqui na Dinamarca e nos Estados Unidos, então tive que ser em inglês, né? Então, tchauzinho.